It's good to have you
Thank
back.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I know you know this. Lauren is the biggest gymnastics
I know.
fan,
I was.
and she was a basket case.
I was. I did not want to be a basket case with her, so that's why I delayed my appearance so I could be a basket case in the privacy of my own office. But all's well that ends well.
Yeah,
right.
we warned Todd Golden when he was here. Todd, if Lauren's not paying attention, it's not you. Okay, so
well, it was exciting. Trinity was able to compete. She did bars, she did vault, she did tremendous on both, and advancing when it looked a little scary when the meet started, and you had Slim Blakely fall on bars, but then she was able to come back and really strong performance.
You know, it's so crazy. So we had the best score on 3 of the 4 events, but didn't win. Finished second, which. I know top 2 go, so you should be like, you want to win everything.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
But anyway, we advanced to Saturday, and we're 1 of 4, get to compete for the national titles. That'll be fun.
And that's perfect. Well, good to see you. How are you? How are things
Great.
here in Gainesville? Great. I got to see you a few weeks ago at the baseball, which is unfreaking believable.
You need to come back.
I'm going to. I was going to come back for Auburn. I told you that, and I had some stuff come up, but I'm going to come back. But let me say it now. I've said it 1,000 times since I saw you on air, but I'll say it on air with you here. The baseball park, as good as it looks on TV, doesn't do it justice. It's magnificent.
Yeah, it's become a great place for people to gather in the spring here in Gainesville, and crowds continue to build. We had almost 8,000 Tuesday night for the win over FSU, and expecting big crowds this weekend. We got the Georgia Bulldogs coming to town for a 3-game series starting tomorrow night, and it's there's something for everyone, right? There's people want to just sit and lock into baseball. Great. There's not a bad seat in the place from the reserve seat standpoint, chairbacks. But then there's all the the berm and the general admission, roam around, and sometimes it's fun. Just you sit and look out the berms, and there's kids like running up and down constantly, and that's what you want. You're making memories, and you're hopefully creating good habits where they're going to keep coming to the ballpark as they grow, and kind of continue that legacy.
We hung out with Scott. We kind of took Scott away from his wife. We kind of hoarded him. So
she appreciated that, by the way.
The football building, Scott, is incredible. What has it been like having that now online for, I guess, 7, 8, 9 months right in there? And what has that meant to the athletic program as a whole and certainly the football program?
Yeah, the Hefner Center has been, obviously really significant for football. They have a new home day to day. They're not stuck down in the bowels of this Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. And, there's all kind of efficiency and just the quality of what it provides for our football team. But probably the most surprising impact has been the overall impact for the vibe and the mental health for all of our student athletes, because they all have access to the Condren Dining Hall in there and the LaFace player, a student athlete lounge. And that just – there's something about when having a place to go that's away from the team sport responsibility, away from class, and you can just go and hang out with people, and you don't have to worry about where you're going to where you're going to eat, where you're going to meet. Everyone goes there, and you walk in during a breakfast or a lunch, and as it would happen, they end up sitting with their teammates usually, but you see so much cross interaction, right? And we're probably, I don't know if this is good or bad, we're probably incubating some relationships. I'm starting to see some pairing off, that men's golfer with that women's swimmer, they seem to be eating lunch a lot by themselves. But you start to see some of that societal interaction. And I bring that up because people go, yeah, big deal. But, the life of a student athlete is so siloed, sport, class, but you're with the same people all the time. And just the feedback we've gotten from our athletes. We had a dinner with our scholarship endowment contributors a couple weeks ago. It was a great event we do annually. And we have, 30 or 40 of our athletes sitting there engaging with these people who support the program. And they get asked questions. The athletes have to answer the questions in front of the donors. And one of the questions was, what's your favorite place on campus? And like almost universally, every athlete said the new dining hall. I was at the table with Trinity Thomas. Right. Trinity goes, I love the dining hall. It's so good. So, that has been just remarkable. And you talk about creating an overall experience for our athletes. It's been fun. We thought we were just finding a really efficient way to feed a bunch of kids, but the ancillary impact of that has been really special.
Well, yeah, teenagers and guys and girls in their early 20s, they're hungry, and especially if they're student athletes. So, of course, it's the new dining hall.
Well, the whole thing feels like a real huge Starbucks, right? It's got the nice, terrazzo and the cool tables, and, they're always over there in the lounge space. Even when they're not eating, they're over there like studying, getting their work in, but they're doing it kind of in a cool setting.
I'm also really jealous that you got to talk to Trinity. Thomas, just
hey, Scott, I want to get to football and basketball for a second because I really believe this. Both football and basketball had seasons that weren't great.
Right.
Yet, and we all know that. But I sense, and I'm serious about this, I don't know if it's recruiting, I don't know if it's the facilities, but I sense real momentum in both programs. Maybe it's the guys they're signing, but do you feel that way? Because, it's hard to have seasons that are disappointing, yet still have momentum in the program, but it really does feel that way.
There's no question. It starts with, the leadership of both those guys, Billy and Todd. The kind of people they are, the way they engage and create relationships, the way they lead and create culture, and then just their vision for what they're trying to do. And in both cases, they are really focused on building something that is sustainable. And because of that, it's not like a rush. We got to win right away. It's we want to be as good as we can right now, but we want to build something so that when we have gotten everything in place and we've got the roster like we need it to be, that there's going to be an expectation that we're going to be really good and we're going to be able to sustain that. And you look at the history of the football program for the last 15 years. We've had some really good years. Every coach that's been here has had a level of success that we've been happy that we can point to and say that was a good year. But it was up and down, and there's a lot of factors go into that. It's really hard at a place like Florida to take in all the noise and all the complications and all the things that go on with this. Being at a place of high profile. And be able to build something consistently good. And I think you got to have someone that's made of the right stuff and is not going to be swayed by public opinion. You're going to believe in what they're doing. And you look at Billy and you look at Todd on the basketball side, I think they're built to be really successful and be successful in a place like Florida. And the best way to put it is they have a lot of the traits that people who have had long-term success at Florida have had. You look at everybody talks about Billy Donovan on the basketball side, obviously Coach Spurrier, but you look at the Tim Waltons and the Kevin O'Sullivans and Mouse Holloways. Those people were they didn't focus on things that didn't matter, but they constantly poured into getting the right people, leading them the right way, holding them accountable, and moving everything forward. I think Todd and Billy, and they kind of embody that.
I can't wait to see the team tonight to get kind of the first impression of the Gators, but it seems like Billy has done such a great job with this group that's come in with getting back to that Florida speed and that Florida size. Have you seen a difference in the quality of athlete in spring practice? In spring practice.
Yeah, there's improved athleticism, and our roster I don't think is where where Billy wants it to be, where we all want it to be. But you can tell there's improvement there, right? And what's amazing is, you remember back in the day, and I'm looking at Frank because he's old like me, but you remember back in the day when you signed a recruiting class and then the 1st of August they would show up and you get to see what they look like in grass?
That's right. That's exactly right.
These kids have been here since January.
That's right.
And I'm not talking about 5 or 6. Yeah. We've had, I think 18 of the high school signees, and then there's another, 8 or 9 or whatever of kids who transferred into the portal. So there was a lot of new faces, right? I had to study my roster the first couple of days I was out of practice just because it's a lot of new. And but it's interesting. Last fall, or when Billy got his first team, he brought some guys in who are really impactful. You think of a Ricky Pearsall, you think of a Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, certainly Osiris Torrance. And you think, man, those guys look like what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
It's like that, except we have a lot of guys who kind of fit that as far as they look that way, and there's just more of them. Yeah. Most of these high school kids, you look at, okay, that guy can play at this level. He's got the ability and the athleticism. And then, some of the transfers that came in, you can tell that they're not only have athletic ability, but they bring a level of experience that's helpful.
We said this. Aiden Mizell and Andy Jean, two of the receivers, they got here, and I get to see them in person. I haven't seen them. I've just seen the YouTube or whatever. But they look the way guys look when they get to Alabama and Georgia. Florida hadn't had that. Florida hadn't had guys that looked that way. Lauren, we talked about that before, so that's to your point. There's a lot of those guys.
And there's a lot on defense. Defensive line defensive line looks totally different with the two transfers, Banks and Jackson, and then, there's a bevy of new high school players, freshmen that are in there. The receivers look different. And then you add on top of that Billy Gonzalez being back, and I'm a huge Billy Gonzalez fan. I don't hire assistant coaches. Everybody thinks I do. But I am. When Billy Napier asked me what I thought about Billy Gonzalez, I love Billy Gonzalez. I think he was one of the best wide receiver coaches in the country, and I've seen it firsthand for a long time. So the receiver room looks different. A lot of talent in the secondary. A lot of young guys in the O-line. Obviously, that's going to be an area that may take a little bit longer to come around than what we'd like right now, but that'll be interesting to watch the progress of.
You mentioned Cam Jackson. So if he's lined up next to Des Watson, that's like 750 pounds on the defensive line.
Yeah, you're not going to see any grass between the hatches when those two are out there together. They're large men for sure.
Scott Stricklin with us, the AD at Florida. Won't keep you much longer, but let me ask you, the facilities are phenomenal. We raved about baseball. Basketball's redone. Hayes got a tour of the football. I haven't got it yet, but I'm going to come call you, and I want to get my tour of the football. But this is the next one. We're in the swamp. At some point, I know you're going to address this. How far along, at least in your thought process, are you? Is that happened in your mind at all yet? Is that a conversation you have with your staff, with donors? How does that whole all work?
It's usually you start a facility project and you come up with the scope, how grand you want the plan to be, what you're trying to accomplish, what you want it to be on the other side. You hire an architect, come up with a budget, you design it, and then you go raise money for it and you build it.
Right.
This is you do all that with something like the swamp, but this is on a scale unlike anything I've ever been a part of.
I get it.
And it I can tell you all the things that we want to have happen in here. We need everything. You start inside out. We need bigger and better gate structures for entry. We need bigger and better concourses for people to move around. We need way more points of sale for concession. Restroom count needs to be way up and nicer. And then in the seating bowl, there's a lot of things you can look at from a premium amenity standpoint. But one thing to keep in mind, the minute you touch any part of the seating bowl, we have a lot of code that we've got to update. And that includes widening aisles, handrails, ADA seating, and, obviously a need for new premium, new video boards, new sound, new lights, all that stuff. But it becomes a bit of a puzzle, and I can think of, I've gone from thinking we need to spend, when 200 million on this thing to it's going to be multiples of that to do it right. And good news is I think we could do some things that give Ben Hill Griffin Stadium another century of use. It's almost 100 years old, right? This facility, the original part of it. But it's going to be the most significant project in the history of Gator athletics, maybe in the history of SEC or college athletics, just from a cost standpoint. And it's going to, the challenge is to do it in a way that, you don't lose what's special about it.
Well, that's the thing. It's the swamp.
It's the swamp, right? So you don't want to take away that, which is why I've been in SoFi, and obviously we played the bowl game in the Raiders' new stadium. We've been to all those, but we've talked to a lot of people who worked on Fenway Park and Dodger Stadium and Lambeau Field. These iconic Rose Bowl, these iconic places that have been updated but haven't lost what makes them special. Because that's really the vision: is how can we update the swamp and make it feel new without losing what we all love about it.
Do you have in your mind a timetable when that would start?
I do.
Okay. Do you want to share?
I
don't. Fair enough.
I know how this works.
Fair enough. No, I get it. Fair enough. Well, you know what? I know you understand the significance of this, and everything else on this campus, Scott, has proven that things head in the right direction, and I mean that what I said about football and basketball as well. Listen, Lauren's going to be a basket case if you don't get a national title in that sport, okay? So we know that.
You and me both.
That'll be the next one. So Scott Stricklin, the good friend and the AD at Florida. Hey, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for being here, guys. Have a great night, all right?